I spent over 40 hours reverse engineering Justin Welsh content system, and I discovered some really interesting things, step-by-step structure that you can apply to your own content to absolutely crush it. Okay, so the very first step where Justin Welsh started, Justin knew that he wanted to make content, but he didn't know where exactly he wants to be posting this content, which kind of platform. He realized though that people were killing it on Twitter and there was absolutely no one doing similar content on LinkedIn. So basically he found this gap in specific niche, or in this case specific platform. So how can you apply this for your own thing? Basically, content exists on all of the different types of platforms. However, there are different content types that exist on these platforms. By the way, I created a blueprint for the best business model out there, so check the description. So what you can do is, because there's probably, you can't really go like Justin on LinkedIn and there's no one posting content. People are posting content everywhere, but there are not all of the different types of content being posted. So you can take the concepts from one platform and you can recreate that type of content on another platform where it doesn't exist yet. And I have definitely seen this. There's definitely content on TikTok that doesn't yet exist, let's say on Instagram, or content on Twitter that doesn't exist yet on Instagram. And I've seen actually a lot of people execute this. They grow on one platform, they know what kind of content works, and then they just take that content, maybe adjust it a little bit on different platform, and then succeed again. I've seen this so many times. So this is definitely a great way to go about if you want to grow your following fast. By the way, I have created a document of 50 best growth hacks used by the biggest marketers out there. Check the link below. So Justin has this specific 10-step content system that he applies to all of his content that makes it so much easier and just makes his content almost guaranteed to be successful. So the step number one is every Wednesday he dedicates 1 hour for ideation, basically coming up with different ideas what kind of content he's going to be posting. He basically goes through a bunch of different resources and then creates what he calls an ideation bank, basically just a bunch of different ideas put together to maybe create content from. Then step number two is he finds anything that supports what he is writing about. So whether it's tweets, quotes, books, articles, whatever it is. Step number three, and this is very important, that he uses specific model to write his newsletter. And this is not just newsletter, this is for his tweets and all of that, and I'll get into that in just a second. But basically for his newsletter, let's say he has what is the problem, that is kind of like the main first thing, then how people are approaching it wrong, so basically having sort of a contradictory view of point compared to everyone else, and then what is his better solution. So this is very basic and simple concept, but just because he has the structure, he doesn't need to think every single time how exactly am I going to write my newsletter. It's right there, straightforward. It doesn't require any time. It makes the newsletter, because he writes a lot of newsletters and he's super consistent, and this is his secret because he just uses a formula. So then step number four, once he writes his newsletter, he checks if everything is concise, adds any visuals, links resources, so on and so forth. So basically adds all the necessary stuff and actually cuts out a lot of stuff. He emphasizes a lot that if there is anything that is not necessary to be there, he's just going to cut it out to make it as short as possible. Step number five then is pre-newsletter CTA, call to action. Basically he writes a piece of content to tease the upcoming newsletter. So he posts this. So step number five is he writes a pre-newsletter CTA, call to action. Basically he writes a piece of content to tease the upcoming newsletter. So this is really interesting strategy, because most of the people, they will send out a newsletter and then perhaps they will put it on their social media, but what he does is he creates content before to create sort of a buzz, what is upcoming for people, what what they should be expecting. So actually this is pretty smart, because now if let's say I saw on his Twitter or his LinkedIn or Instagram that he's publishing this newsletter and this is what it's going to be about, if I see that newsletter now later, let's say a few hours later, I see it coming up in my mailbox and I see the tagline, I kind of already have a little bit of an idea what that newsletter is about. So I'm much more likely to actually click on that newsletter compared to if basically I saw the tweet and the newsletter has been sent to me a while back, so now I need to go back and find that newsletter. So this is a pretty smart way of doing it. But of course, then number 6 as well is a post newsletter CTA. So again, the same type of principle, just a piece of content to inform that he has now published that newsletter and people can go check it out. Number 7, and this is very important as well, this is why Justin is as successful as he is the type of content that he writes. He basically has 6 different types of content pieces that he is producing for his newsletter, and he has kind of like similar structure for his social media as well. So basically he can be writing a story, usually story about someone else or story from his own life, observation, contrarian take, listicle, and present versus future type of content. So this is what makes it very simple, what I kind of already touched on before, that he has this one system how he's basically writing the newsletter to have the structure, and then he has these different topics that he can choose from. So it makes it very simple. He just doesn't need to think about stuff. He just thinks, okay, this is the topic that I'm choosing, this is the structure, this is what type of content it's going to be. It's going to be like a story, it's going to be observation, whatever it is, and it becomes so much easier to actually produce the content. Then number 8, what he does is he writes a thread or like a long tweet now. Basically he takes the newsletter, he trims off the fat and turns the newsletter into a Twitter thread that's much easier to consume. Then he also does the same with LinkedIn. Well, not exactly the same, because he usually posts it as carousels. So usually he will take that thread that he posted on Twitter, put it in an image form, because carousels are just performing a little better on LinkedIn, at least as of now, and he just posts that on LinkedIn. And when he's publishing content, he's publishing the content on different days of the week, just to make sure that he's not just throwing out a bunch of exactly same content at the same day. So he just spaces things out. Now there's one more super important thing what makes his content really perform so well. This is basically his content secret, how he creates it so easily and why it performs so well. He finds successful content from other people and basically he just replicates it. It's honestly as simple as that. There are certain tools that you can use, especially if you're doing something like Twitter, but there are also there are also tools for LinkedIn and TikTok and all of these different platforms, how to find the best performing content on specific accounts. But what he does is then once he finds this content, he basically creates templates from tweets and stores them in a template bank. So he kind of has these like tweet formulas that he puts in the bank, that he calls it a tweet bank, and this makes it very easy for him then just take his content and put it into that format. And this is usually different from what I was talking about before it was like a little bit longer piece of content. This is when he writes just shorter, more viral prone, I guess, type of content. And by the way, he does offer a course where he has this whole system detailed. He basically just shares his screen and shows you exactly step by step how he goes through this whole process. I've taken the course, and honestly, I've taken a bunch of different courses, and this is one of the best courses I've taken. Especially, it's really great value for money because it's a low price. I need to check how much the course is right now, but it's really low price in terms of how much value you actually get it, and just super easy to consume as well. I have a special discount for it as well, so I'll leave links in the description if you want to check it out for yourself. Another Another thing is, honestly, he's just crazy consistent and he interacts a lot. So if you look at his Twitter, he tweets 1,200 times per month, which is absolutely insane, even though a lot of these are just replies, which also shows you that he's engaging a lot with people. He's not just tweeting his own stuff, he's engaging a lot, and that is what's helping him grow so fast. Also, another thing that's very important as well, that's a huge part of his success, is that he is not afraid of reposting the same content with minor tweaks. And often this content actually leads to top performing posts. He might be reposting same content and he gets crazy engagement. So it just shows you that you shouldn't be afraid to repost your content again and again. Obviously, take some gaps in between. By the way, I made some other videos reverse engineering different things that Justin Welsh does within his business, and there are so many fascinating strategies that are being used that I discovered that I actually haven't seen anyone talk about that, so I will leave links to the related videos. Definitely go check them out.